In this lesson, we'll discuss Le Chatelier's principle. Le Chatelier's principle says if you have a system at equilibrium and you impose a change or a stress on that equilibrium system, that the reaction is going to shift in the direction that reduces that change. Once the system goes out of equilibrium, we are now talking about non-equilibrium concentrations. And so therefore, we're talking about Q, the reaction quotient. To bring Q back to K, the reaction is going to shift. And that's what Le Chatelier's principle predicts for us. It is only a predictive guideline. It does not explain why the reaction shifts. When a system goes out of equilibrium, the equilibrium constant K does remain the same, except for when we have a temperature change. That's when the equilibrium constant will actually change. More on that coming up. One of the changes or stresses that we can impose on an equilibrium system is a change in concentration. So if we add a reactant or product to our equilibrium system, the reaction is going to shift away from that added substance. If we remove a reactant or a product from our equilibrium system, the reaction is going to shift toward that substance that we removed. In addition to explaining a shift in terms of Q and K, we can also explain a shift in terms of kinetics. If we add a reactant or a product to our equilibrium system, we're going to get more collisions. And then more collisions means a faster rate. So eventually, the rate of the reaction that's in the opposite direction will increase to meet this new higher rate, and then the rates become equal again, and then we're at equilibrium. Okay, so back to Le Chatelier's principle and Q versus K. Let's say in this particular example here that we increase the concentration of either of the reactants, either nitrogen or hydrogen. Usually it's just going to be one thing. So we've added a reactant. Le Chatelier's principle predicts that the reaction is going to shift away from the reactants, so toward the products, or that's a shift to the right. But now let's explain why. If we increase the concentration of either nitrogen or hydrogen, that's in the denominator of our equilibrium expression. And if we increase our denominator, we are dividing by a larger number, and that will give us a smaller answer. So our Q is going to be smaller than K. And as we've discussed, if Q is less than K, the reaction shifts to the right. Let's consider increasing the concentration of the product. Le Chatelier's principle predicts that the reaction is going to shift away from the product, or that's a shift to the left. And that's because if we increase the concentration of the product, that increases our numerator. That will give us a larger value for Q. Q is now larger than K, and as we've discussed, the reaction will shift left to bring Q back to K. Here's a graph of concentration versus time. If we were adding nitrogen to that previous reaction, you can see for a period of time in the beginning, all of the concentrations are constant. But then once we add the nitrogen, we see a sharp increase in the nitrogen concentration. So then as the reaction shifts away from the reactants toward the products, we see a decrease in concentration until the concentration becomes constant again. But it never goes back down to where it was originally. The system can never entirely undo what has been done. And then if you take a look at the other reactant and the product, you will see as the reaction is shifting toward the product, an increase in the concentration of the product until it becomes constant. And then the other reactant decreases in concentration until once again it becomes constant and a new equilibrium is established. Now let's talk about the effect of changing the temperature on an equilibrium system. Remember, the equilibrium constant is actually going to change when we change the temperature of an equilibrium system. We are going to need to pay attention to if the reaction is endothermic or exothermic with regard to the forward direction. Remember, endothermic reactions absorb heat, so you will see heat on the reactant side, and exothermic reactions release heat, so you will see heat on the product side. Below are the graphs for an endothermic and exothermic reaction. The first one is exothermic, where we end up with our products having less energy than our reactants. Notice how the activation energy for both the forward and the reverse directions are labeled on the diagram. On the right, we have the endothermic graph, where the products have more energy than the reactants, and we also have the activation energy for both the forward and the reverse reactions labeled on the graph. The reverse direction for an endothermic reaction is exothermic. Similarly, the reverse direction for an exothermic reaction is endothermic. Notice on the endothermic graph how the activation energy for the forward direction, the endothermic direction, is much larger than the activation energy for the reverse direction. That would be the exothermic direction. And then notice on the exothermic graph how the endothermic direction, that's going to be the reverse, is much higher than the activation energy for the exothermic direction. The endothermic direction of an equilibrium system is always going to benefit more from an increase in temperature, and that's because it always has a larger activation energy. That means you will see an increased rate in the endothermic direction. So for an exothermic reaction, the reverse direction is the endothermic direction. We're going to see an increase in the rate of the endothermic or reverse direction. And so the reaction is going to shift away from the products toward the reactants. And if we have fewer products and more reactants, K is going to decrease. For endothermic reactions, the forward direction is endothermic and is going to benefit more from an increase in temperature. The rate of the forward direction is going to increase. We're going to see more product, less reactant. And then if we have more product and less reactant, we're going to see an increase in the equilibrium constant when we increase the temperature. Let's go back to this example with the ammonia. The enthalpy change delta H is negative 92 kilojoules per mole. So that is exothermic, and that means that the heat is going to be on the right side of the equation. You can almost think about heat as being like a product. Heat is produced or released by the reaction. Let's say we increase the temperature. Le Chatelier's principle says the reaction is going to shift away from the imposed change. So in this case, we are adding heat, and so the reaction is going to shift away from the heat toward the reactant side, or a shift to the left. Another way you can think about this is that the reverse reaction is endothermic and will absorb any added heat. As the reaction shifts to the left, there's going to be less product, more reactant, and that is going to lower our equilibrium constant K. The last change we're going to talk about is changing the pressure of a gas system. Has to be gas. So if you add or remove a gas from an equilibrium system, you can think about the shift the same way that we think about changing concentration. If we add a gas, the reaction is going to shift away from that gas that's been added. And then if we remove a gas, the reaction is going to shift toward where that removed gas is. If we add an inert gas, inert means that the gas doesn't react, that is not going to affect the equilibrium system. If we decrease the volume of a system, remember Boyle's law, that will increase the pressure. And then the reaction is going to shift toward the side with fewer moles of gas. So we're going to look at the coefficients in the balanced chemical equation to tell us how many moles of gas we have. The system can decrease pressure by producing less gas. You won't have as many collisions, and then the pressure decreases. If ever the number of moles of gas on either side of the balanced chemical equation are the same, then there is no shift. Let's go back to this same ammonia reaction. And on the reactant side, we have 1 mole of nitrogen and 3 moles of hydrogen. So that's a total of 4 moles of gas. On the product side, we have 2 moles of ammonia. That is 2 moles of gas. So if we increase the pressure by compressing the container, decreasing the volume, according to Le Chatelier's principle, the system is going to decrease the pressure, and it can do that by shifting to the right, shifting to make 2 moles of gas from 4 moles of gas. When we change the volume, that changes the partial pressure or the concentration of all the gases in the system. And then since we're out of equilibrium, we are looking at bringing Q back to K. When we decrease the volume, the concentration or partial pressure of everything increases. But in this system, the denominator is going to affect the value of Q more than the numerator. So now Q is smaller than K, and as we've talked about in the past, the reaction will shift right to make more product. If we add a catalyst to an equilibrium system, the rate of the forward and the reverse reaction do increase, but there is no shift in equilibrium. If we add or remove a solid or liquid from our equilibrium system, this does not cause a shift either. Let's try a couple practice problems. This question asks about what will happen to the moles of sulfur trioxide, and we can also relate that to molarity, of course, because molarity is your moles over your volume in liters. And we're going to make some different changes to our equilibrium system. In the first one, we are adding oxygen gas. So we're increasing its concentration or moles. And according to Le Chatelier's principle, the reaction is going to shift away from that imposed change. So the reaction is going to shift to the left. And as a result, the SO3 moles will increase. Next, let's decrease the volume to increase the pressure. The system can decrease pressure by producing fewer moles of gas. So if the reaction shifts to the left, 3 moles of gas become 2 moles of gas, and then the pressure decreases. So the moles of SO3 in this case would increase as well. In the next one, the pressure is increased by adding argon gas. Argon is a noble gas and is considered inert or non-reactive. So there would be no shift and no change in the moles of SO3. In D, the temperature is decreased, and it says that the reaction is endothermic. So the heat goes on the left side of the reaction. When we decrease the temperature, that is like removing heat. So the reaction will shift left to produce heat, and the number of moles of SO3 will increase again. In the last one, we are removing the SO2 gas. So the system will shift toward the removed substance. So in this case, the reaction is going to shift to the right to make SO2, and that will decrease the number of moles of SO3. Pause the video here and try this next problem on your own. Okay, for this one, we see an increase in the temperature and a decrease in the Kp values. So that must mean as we increase our temperature, we get more and more reactant or less product in order to decrease the Kp values. So we are increasing the temperature or adding heat, and the reaction is shifting toward the reactants. And it does that to absorb the added heat. So that must mean that the heat is on the product side, and that makes this reaction exothermic.